Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 127.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to sharing useful information on true custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques. I create exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores. When we watch golf tournaments, we're always watching the tour pros hitting the ball farther, and there are so many discussions that the clubs are too hot, that the balls need to be scoped back, that the fairways need to be cut higher, that the golfers are much stronger, and on and on and on. But a huge factor for tour pros, men and women, for them hitting their drives farther than ever is technique and using the physics of what it takes to hit the ball farther. Knowing and applying the real physics of what it takes to hit the ball far, and being able with tools like FlightScope and TrackMan and other launch monitors to dial in launch parameters to hit the ball as far as possible. It's great today to have Adam Young from Adam Young Golf back on my podcast to talk about the things all of us can do to optimize our driving distance, no matter what our swing speed is. He said a great phrase during the interview that I really enjoyed, and that is out-intellecting your driving. He'll share with you some of how he did that for himself and how you can also do that for your golf game.
www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Hello, this is Tony Wright with the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 127. And I'm excited that Adam Young from Adam Young Golf is back with us today. Adam wrote the still phenomenal book, The Practice Manual, that I know is selling quite well around the world. He's created terrific website content, including his Strike Plan and Next Level Golf web-based programs. And a recent web post from him, blog post, got me thinking maybe it was time to talk a little bit again. So, Adam, thanks for being back. And it's going to be fun to talk about hitting it further, right?
Hi, Tony. Yeah, it's always fun to talk about hitting it further.
That's right. Well, first, though, a little bit, if you don't mind, I know besides your recent marriage, you've made a bunch of changes to your work location. Well, specifically, you're in the Las Vegas area. Talk a little bit about things going on for you, how you're interacting with golfers now, what you're going to be doing while you're in Las Vegas.
Yeah, my life's a little bit crazy at the moment. So, I mean, the online creation and the book is still doing well, and the creation part it takes such a lot of time. I mean, even a 5-minute video can sometimes take 20 hours of work, getting all the footage, thinking of the ideas, editing everything down, doing the script. It's so much more work than I ever thought, and what most people, I imagine, who watch it in 5 minutes would think that goes on. But so yeah, it's been such a time-intensive thing for me that I thought, now that I'm married, we can go and live wherever we want in the world, pretty much, because of the online stuff. So we thought, let's go and explore a few places. So we've been to Vegas, then Phoenix, then El Paso, then San Antonio. Then we stayed in Austin for a few months. And out of those places, we decided that Vegas was actually the nicest place that we found. And we found our dream home there. So we've come back here, and we're setting up shop here.
I hope you don't mind. Did you go and see the bats when you were in Austin at night?
I don't think they were around at that time. I think it's maybe a summer thing. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'm not sure. I got to see them once, and it is wow, what an experience. I mean, you can see it online, but it's incredible.
I joined the local gym and I was working out one day, and something whizzed past my head, and I looked up and there was a bat in the room. So yeah.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. Well, Las Vegas is definitely, it's just continually changing and growing, and it's a pretty wild place. So I'm sure things are going to work out real well for you.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have the Strip, and everybody knows about that, but there's actually a Las Vegas outside of it as well, and it's actually quite nice. It's just so many nice things to do, and you never run out of restaurants or activities. So yeah, we thought it'd be a good place to come.
Kind of neat that you had the opportunity to really explore like that. So yeah,
I mean, it comes with its own disadvantages, but we've been throwing darts at the map and just saying, all right, let's go try this place out. And it's a nice thing to have, definitely. But when you have lots of choices, I mean, there's that paradox of choice, isn't it? Too much choice can leave you thinking you've left the wrong one on the table.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into it. And you had done a little video recently about increasing driving distance, and you've done some of this stuff before, but let's sort of set the stage a little bit. And I continue to see, and I guess they're outdated TrackMan, average specs for PGA Tour data, although I think the women's data is probably closer to more real. But it's interesting because that old data shows that pretty much everybody, at least as the data was, hits the ball 95 feet in the air, every club the same. But boy, that isn't the case when you watch what's going on in the tour. I mean, and I know they're now tracking in ShotLink like, maximum driver height for these guys, 130, 140, those kind of things. Talk a little bit about that. It's probably not a surprise to you to see that kind of data and some of these high launch numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many influences on it. I mean, number one is we know from physics, or more information is coming from physicists saying, if you want to optimize distance, what is the ideal trajectory, spin, ball speed, and combinations of those to achieve that? So I think the knowledge base is there now. We know pretty much the launch angles, the spin rates that produce optimum distance. But now we have the opportunity to measure it as well. With TrackMan influence or FlightScope, all these radar devices, we can actually take those or find out what our numbers are, which was huge for me. And so in terms of optimizing distance, a higher ball launch with lower spin is much better on the whole. And so now that we can measure it, let's go towards it. And I think everybody on tour has a TrackMan or has access to a TrackMan. So there's no excuse now for people not to optimize their numbers, or to at least know what numbers they have, which was always an issue for me. Even when I knew this is what the launch and spin should be, I didn't know whether I was doing it. And, the first time I actually did the optimal launch and spin, I looked at that ball and I thought, oh my God, that's way too high. I've never seen a ball fly that high. So, but you look at TrackMan, you see it goes 30, 40, 50 yards farther, and you go, okay, I'm taking this out on the course with me, and it holds up.
Yeah, I still remember, when I sort of first got back into golf in the late 80s, there were guys that would hit these drives, right? Maybe you might even remember this, although you're a bit younger than I am. They hit these boring drives that sort of, rise in the air, and it's so different. It's so amazingly different. Well,
that is a beautiful flight. Yeah, sorry. That's a beautiful flight. That I remember watching those ones where it starts out low and kind of fizzes up. You can hear the of the golf ball fly out, and it looks beautiful, but it's actually a distance killer. And the high rainbow flight, which is the opposite, one that looks more like a rainbow, that one is better for maximum distance, even though it might not look as impressive.
Well, you had talked, and you started to talk about it a little bit, but when you first started doing this and finding out what you could do for yourself, I saw the words, that it was a mystery for you how this was happening. Talk about what was your personal experience and sort of how you kind of got to where, wow, this is all, the results really turned out to be pretty amazing for you.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It was genuinely a mystery. As a kid, you read every book, and there's nothing talking about the impact physics, or the ball flight physics. So, as an amateur golfer, I'm saying, why is Tiger hitting it so far? I mean, I could see he has a high swing speed, but I didn't know what mine was. But there's more to it than just swing speed as well. Getting that speed into the ball is one thing, but like I said, there's a massive amount you can do just by optimizing the launch parameters of the ball. So a swing speed thing is largely it can certainly be trained. I mean, there are loads of guys out there who are doing really good things with training it. Michael Romatowski is a guy who's doing really good things on the swing speed front. So certainly you can improve that, but from a pure technical perspective, even if you don't want to improve your physique or physical abilities, you can still out-intellect the game or improve your distance just through intelligence, just by changing your technique. And that's pretty much what I did with my game. I didn't increase speed. And I have a blog post on this which shows I increased my distance by 56 yards, which is incredible. The carry distance was 56 yards longer. And I didn't even increase my speed for that. It was purely changing the launch angle and the spin rate on the ball. And so it's basically me finding out what are the parameters that create distance and how do I create that. Once I knew that, I could figure out the rest.
Yeah. It's amazing. Now, you talked in that little video you recently did, you showed a little chart there that obviously we can't show it now, but it showed comparisons of average smash and launch and spin. I found it interesting that, that your view is some of these people have smash a 135. I mean, that's a terrible smash factor for that there. That's crazy. But talk a little bit about that chart.
I mean, that data was taken maybe 3 years ago or 3 or 4 years ago of that. And they were quite high handicappers, above 20 handicap. So not everybody's going to have that lower smash. I think modern equipment now you can hit it almost anywhere on the face and achieve a higher smash factor than that. But yeah, basically there are three things that create distance. It's the launch angle of the ball. Whether the ball launches 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 5 degrees. So that's think about how high the ball comes off initially. There's the spin rate of the ball. So how much backspin, how many RPMs of backspin does it have? And then there's the ball speed. So how fast does that ball come off? And ball speed is a product of how fast you swing it and how well you strike it for the most part. So the term smash factor relates to that relationship. So as an easy example, if you swing the club at 100 mile an hour and that ball comes off at 135 mile an hour, then you've got a 1.35 smash because the ball has come off 1.35 times the club speed. If you're a numbers guy like me, that'll make sense. If not, that's just gone in one ear and out the other.
But I try to talk with people about that a lot too. I mean, because it's kind of crazy important, right?
Yeah. I mean, so one of the biggest killers for smash factor is where you strike it on the face. So if you strike particularly low on the face or on the heel side of the club, that can kill smash factor because the heel is actually moving slower than the rest of the club face. Yeah. We talk about club speed all the time, but no one talks about club face speed. And the heel is moving slower than the toe because the toe is always rotating over. So that's why sometimes on TrackMan you can see smash factors higher than 1.5, which is the supposed theoretical limit or legal limit of a club. But if you strike the ball slightly out of the toe, you maintain a lot of the energy transference and you get an extra little pop of speed because the toe is moving faster. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, it's a smash factor. The biggest thing for people is striking the center of the face, and if you veer away from the face, the smash will drop off quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's one of my sort of pet peeves with real long clubs for people is a lot of times you see a huge difference in their ability to strike the center of the face, between, even a half-inch difference in club length for people.
That's it, yeah, definitely.
Now, you had talked about in your video too, some about what you call good contact at impact, and that you showed videos of people swinging up, but they're swinging up, with a positive angle of attack. But flipping the club, for example, is not a great way to swing up and get the ball in the air, right? Because things will happen to, things like a spin loft and dynamic loft that will just totally ruin your ability to keep the spin low.
Yeah, exactly. So, body positioning is important with that. So, yeah, you're looking to swing on the upswing. You're looking to get the lowest point of the swing circle behind the golf ball. So if people are listening to this, these are often hard or difficult to visualize. But if you imagine the swing as a hula hoop, and so the club will travel on the downward part of that hoop, then it reaches the lowest part of the hoop. We call that low point. And then the club will start to ascend. And we want to hit the ball, or we want to place the ball in the latter part of that hoop, the part where the club is ascending into the ball. And so body positioning is key for that. So having the ball farther forward in your stance, which is a lot of what the old school advice is, and that makes sense. And getting your upper body more behind the ball, or your head more behind the ball at impact, is also something that you see. If you pause any long drive champion at impact, their heads are so far behind the ball, it's ridiculous. Whereas most amateurs, they treat a driver pretty much like an iron. They set up with the same positions, and at impact, their head is pretty much level with the golf ball, which is good for an iron, but it's not good for getting your low point behind the ball. And so then they'll usually start hitting it low, and then they try to flip in order to get something. And as you said, that's not an optimal way to do it, because that increases spin loft a little too much.
Now, and as somebody's doing that, you probably think a little bit about D-plane type stuff with that, and sometimes get people to maybe aim a little more to the right when they're doing it, so that, I find sometimes when I hit a little bit higher, I hit it a little bit left, but I kind of don't worry so much about that, right? Because that means you're really hitting, doing an appropriate job of creating that angle of attack and being past the low point, right?
Yeah, certainly. In terms of D-plane, when you start hitting up on the ball more, that swing path starts to go more to the left. But that's only if you just place the ball forward in your stance. There are other ways to change the low point position, and one of my favorites is to actually get a player to swing more to the right. So they have their swing direction more from inside to out. And what that achieves is it moves the low point back, which gets us hitting on the upswing, but it also neutralizes the D-plane effect on the path, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can hit, I think my record is 12 degrees up, and I still had a right swing path for that.
Wow.
Yeah, my swing path was still about 3-4 degrees inside out, and I hit a draw. My swing direction was about 12 degrees to the right or something like that. But I know for most people, understanding the difference between swing path and swing direction is tough. It is a tough visual to get, but yeah.
That's probably something that's covered in some of your on-site.
I do have. Yeah, I do have blogs on it. I was laying in bed the other night, and I thought, you know what is a great video is making a golf swing video with a dinner plate, because you can do so many different things. So that's going to be one of my next videos. It's going to be the golf swing on a plate, where I describe some really complex things using a dinner plate.
Huh. I'm trying to visualize that. That's going to be fun to see.
I'll let you know when it's done.
Yeah. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about, some of the I suspect you have some specific drills and ideas and thoughts that you get people to do that, but you're probably not, getting them to try to think about swing mechanics, but more like, endpoints and externals. But as we were in this about 5 minutes ago, I was thinking, do you ever try to get people, what I would sort of call the Goldilocks world, right? Of trying to hit it as high as possible and still maintain, like your 12-degree stuff, as a way to kind of learn to increase angle of attack?
Certainly.
That's kind of I never thought about that until a few minutes ago when we were talking, and that's as a drill, right?
Differential practice drill, I suppose. That's how I learn most things. I push it to the absolute extreme, see what the limits are, and then find that middle ground. So while I can hit 12 degrees on the upswing, I usually settle on about 4 to 6 degrees on the upswing, because that's where my best performance is. I still get the distance, but I feel like I can control it. And there's even an injury prevention thing here. And to hit that much on the upswing, you have to contort your body into such a weird position that you do put your body at risk of injury. So that is an important consideration as well for people. And there are safer ways to hit on the upswing. A lot of spine tilt, that can cause issues if the hips are not aligned correctly. But if you get your lower body correct as well, then it creates less torque in the spine. And that certainly, I don't want to take the place of any physical trainers and spout things that I know nothing about, but certainly there are positions that are more injurious and less injurious to golfers to create this upward angle attack.
Is that something that you've ever seen that some of the long drives guys have as an injury then, because they're trying so hard to create to get the ball so high?
Yeah, it's tough.
Wondered,
correlation and causation, right? You imagine if those guys are training every day for like 3, 4, 5 hours a day, hitting it as fast, swinging as fast as they do. Yes, it might be the positions that are causing the injury, or it might just be the fact that everybody who does sport at an elite level gets injured. Pretty much is part and parcel of playing the game. Our bodies are not designed to do the same motions over and over and over again for many years. When you look at extreme athletes in any sport, usually they get injured. So it's hard to say whether it's the technique or just the fact they're doing the sport that creates that.
Well. So, what are some of the things that you use as kind of cues and ideas? And obviously, not without giving away a lot of your content from some of your web-based stuff, but pretty simple things that some golfers can attempt and try to do a little more in terms of hitting the ball a little higher with a little less spin, and things that may be pretty easy to do.
Definitely. I'm not so big on drills per se. When I think of a drill, I think of like muscle memory, kind of just. I
hate that term. So there you
go. Drills they're just muscle memory over and over, repeat. And for me, we know that muscle memory doesn't exist. That's not to say that practice isn't important, but for me, I can achieve 10 years worth of change with a pupil in one lesson just by changing their concepts, just by changing what they're trying to do, how they're visualizing certain things. So most golfers will swing at a ball with a driver, and they're not aware at all of whether they're hitting up or down or neutral on it. It's not in their peripheral vision even of golf. So just making a player aware of what the club should be doing through impact, and then making maybe a few setup changes to make it easier for them. So, I do some body work sometimes, but just to make it easier for a person to do it. But, I always use the example of the nail drill, because it's such a versatile drill. So I've got a golf ball with a nail driven through it. And if I put that on a tee and I angle that nail towards the sky and say to a person, how would you hammer this? They'll automatically set up different, and they'll produce body motions that are more conducive to hitting on the upswing. So players can kind of figure a lot of stuff out they might not do it optimally at first, but they figure out how to do it. And then I can come in and tweak or clean up what's left over and say, well, try and put your body in this position. And does that make it easier to achieve the task? So, yeah, that's how I see coaching. I start with the concept. So how they're visualizing attacking that nail. Does that visual make sense to you?
Yeah. And concepts are so important about everything, whether it's putting and any element of golf. And I even wonder, are you able to get anybody to say what their concept is of what they're doing with a driver? I'll bet that, they have no idea.
Well, that's it. Most golfers, I actually split it further into unconscious concepts and conscious concepts. So conscious concepts are things that you're actually trying to do. You can verbalize them. Yeah, I'm trying to swing left or swing more right or something like that. But unconscious concepts are a thing that I defined as things that golfers are doing that they might not be aware of, but the unconscious is creating it. So, for example, a slicer who sees the ball go off to the right and the person who knows nothing about any golf theory, that person is going to have an unconscious concept to swing more left because they see that ball go right, so their instinct tells them to swing more left. Now we know from impact physics that's not the correct way to correct a slice. It will make it worse. But that is an unconscious concept that you will see any golfer develop. And I know that because if I put 100 golfers on a driving range and they all start out with a decent looking motion, if they start slicing it and I came back a week later, they'd all be swinging left.
Yeah.
Because they're swinging left to try to steer the ball onto the target. Again, it's that correlation causation. Most people think swinging left causes a slice. Doesn't necessarily. They're swinging left to try and put path and face more left to get that slice more functional. So, sorry, a little bit off.
No, that's great. No, that's exactly important. I mean, everything about concepts in golf is just a huge deal. Like I said,
definitely,
I definitely understand that. Well, so now we've got female golfers, and I'm 69, right? So I'm an older male golfer, and other people that are older. Thoughts different with them that you use, or different concepts that, maybe they just need to hit it a little harder sometimes?
Yeah, well, I was going to say.
That's one of them, right? But
yeah.
But what kind of things, or, if any of those folks are listening, might you typically talk about for older folks?
For the most part, it's the same stuff. We're trying to launch that ball as high as possible with a little less spin than normal. But there's a kind of bell curve, and at the really high speed level, so when you're talking long drive champions, they don't need to launch it as high, because they've got enough speed to keep that ball going forever. So they don't need to launch it as high. So you might see slightly lower launches with long drive champions than what I would consider optimal for someone with, say, 80 mile an hour swing speed. And when you get to really low swing speeds, so kind of seniors or maybe ladies or juniors, they might need a little bit more spin.
Yeah.
Tiny bit more spin, but it's not a huge amount. They can get away with spinning it quite low if they're launching it high enough. I typically try and get the launch as close to about 16, even 18 degrees I've seen as a launch angle going optimal carry distances, and keeping the spin definitely above 2,000 RPMs. I have hit shots. My longest shots have spun a little less than 2,000 RPMs, but I don't think that would be great for someone with really low swing speed. So 2,000, 2,500. I don't like to see it go over 3,000 RPMs unless a player is really launching it low.
Well, that's interesting that you say. That's new information to me, because I know a lot of my fitting friends. you see some of the aerodynamic stuff and at least suggests that you need more spin when you're lower swing speed. But I guess what you're saying is your experience is maybe not as much as you think, right?
Yeah. Well, you need higher spin if you don't increase the launch angle.
Yeah.
So say someone is launching at 8 degrees and they have a low swing speed, then yes, increasing the spin rate will increase their distance. But if you actually change their swing and you get them to hit up on the ball more and increase the dynamic loft that way, so that increases the launch angle of the ball, then you don't need to increase their spin rate as much. So it depends. If you're looking at it from a club fitting perspective, I think often they may just tweak the loft to achieve a higher launch and higher spin, and they see increase in distance. But if you're looking at it from a teacher's perspective, where I can delve in and change their swing, then I can optimize the results even further.
So you can get a female, I'm guessing, let's just put numbers, instead of like a 13, 14, 15 degree loft, you might even get them with a 10 degree loft. But if you get all that launch stuff right, they can still get some incredible results. Exactly. I think that's what you're trying to say. So right?
Exactly.
Another way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, which is easier to do? Well, obviously, just grabbing one of these adjustable clubs and cranking the loft up is easier. It's a no-brainer. But if a person says to me, look, I want to be a long drive champion or something like that, or I want to optimize absolutely everything and I'm willing to change my technique, then there are a few more yards that we can get out for them.
Yeah. Well, that's been really great today. Adam, some final words and maybe a little bit about, I know we've talked in the past about Strike Plan, but I don't think mentioned too much about Next Level Golf, which is sort of the next level beyond the Strike Plan in a way, isn't it? And you talked in the beginning about how long it takes to do these things. Talk about some of the things that are in, Next Level Golf particularly that are relevant to what we're talking about, and maybe any other things about it that you want to mention that you think are important for golfers.
Yeah, so Next Level Golf was a program I actually launched last year, started, and I wanted an outlet for myself to talk about some of the things that are untalked about in the golf industry in teaching. So some deeper topics on motor learning things, stuff that golf nerds will really appreciate, people like myself. But it's kind of all encompassing. I wanted a place where I could put like a portal for everything. Think about the book, the practice manual, that on steroids. Yeah. So I go through, all the practice manual stuff, but even more in depth and in video format, which is sometimes easier to digest for people. But I go through the impact physics. So we talk about the things that we talked about: face, path, ground strike, face strike, club face direction, spin loft, angle of attack, even some real deep stuff on gear effect as well. And the reason for that is not just intellectually pleasing, but once you understand those things, you can start to coach yourself. Because it's all the same things that I use in coaching when I'm looking at a player. So yeah, in deep depth swing mechanic stuff as well. But I do swing mechanics a little different in that, number one, my swing mechanic stuff is more flexible. In terms of if you haven't got a certain body, you can still do this stuff. And I also talk about swing mechanics in direct correlation with the result. So in other words, if you came to NLG and you said, right, I want more distance, then there are drills there to achieve exactly that. Or say you're slicing the ball off to the right, there are drills to achieve different path and face in there. So I link everything to the impact mechanics. So it's not just random swing tips hoping that it suits you. It's specific to your individual fault. There's even psychology stuff there, optimal practice, which is probably what I'm known best for. So certain games, drills are all level based that make golf training very fun and gamified. So when you go to the range, you're not just beating balls at a target, you actually have a goal for the session, which makes it much more inspiring for you. I even go through strategy stuff, course management things. So how you can take some of that training stuff that you did on the range and apply it directly to improving your scores through strategy. So strategy is a great way of improving your scores without touching your swing at all, without changing your swing. But if you combine it all together, then it's really good.
For golf nerds, huh? Well, I think I'm going to make sure that some of my club fitting friends know more about this particular part too. Although I have to admit I haven't subscribed to it yet, but I have a great opportunity where I'm going to have some time to look at that. But that's another.
Hook you up, yeah. It is for golf nerds. Yeah, I mean the strike plan is a little bit more. Here's 3 hours of content. Here's a course. It's to improve your strike only, which is the quickest way to lower your scores, by the way. So strike plan is a great program, but it's just strike oriented. NLG is every golf nerd's dream, and they don't have to be a good player. They just have to be
interested,
interested in golf. Really, we want something that's a little bit outside of the normal swing tip stuff.
Well, thanks again for. I think this is the third time we've talked, and it's delightful to get to talk with you again, and it's always incredibly fascinating. Sometimes I have to figure out how you really got as deep into this as you did. Maybe we talked at it earlier, but it's a passion, right? I mean,
this is just the tip of the iceberg.
It's always been a passion. Yeah, the tip of the iceberg. Oh boy, that's good. Well, I'm going to put links in the show notes. I'd have to put so many links if I did everything. So I'm going to put one link to the website, but also cue people to get to the different things. And I think you always have to put a link to the practice manual in anything because did you ever imagine it would be as popular as it is? I mean, I guess you hoped maybe it was on your vision board because I know you did a vision board, Adam. But
I did do a vision board, yeah, and I did.
Was the book on the vision board that it would be the brilliant book?
It was, but. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I mean, I wrote a little sentence saying blah, blah, blah has sold 1 million copies. I never, ever dreamed it. My plan for it was if it sold 1 copy a week, then I was more than happy. I wrote the book as a passion project, not to make money off it, but luckily it's done well enough that I'm able to create more content and market myself more to reach more golfers, which is what I want to do.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, again, thank you. Hang in for a minute afterwards, and
will do.
And this has been a great interview. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me on.
Game Improvement Golf. I create exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores.
Adam, I appreciate all the details and insights you shared in this interview, but you also, and if you were listening, you heard this, spend a lot of time and hard work creating all of the great and useful content for golfers through your website, your posts, and your materials like the Strike Plan and the Next Level Golf programs. You deserve all the success you've achieved. You make all of us better golfers and better instructors. I put a few links in the show notes, first to Adam's website, where you can see all of his content, his fascinating blog posts, and links to his Strike Plan and Next Level Golf programs. I also put a link again, remember this is the third time I've talked with Adam, to the Practice Manual book, maybe the most important golf improvement book that's ever been written. If you care about the details of golf improvement and you really want to understand the details of motor learning and how they apply, you need to read this. Well, my shout out today is for my friend and president and founder of the Association of Golf Club Fitting Professionals, Roy Nix. He's not doing a lot of fitting right now, but he is doing an awful lot to promote the truth about true custom club fitting. And very soon you'll see a new and updated AGCP website that will be content-rich for custom fitters and for golfers. Thanks for all of your hard work for all of us, Roy. Well, that's it for today. I have a great treat for you in our next interview. We'll talk with Andre Thion with Golf and Swing. He is a premier true custom club fitter in France, and he shares his insights and experiences and his incredible success with fitting Sterling single-length irons to help golfers play exceptional golf. I can't wait. See you in 2 weeks.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com